on time. You may have to hit little buttons to say you accept it. So tonight, I'm going to talk a little bit about Mahjong, and then everyone will be able to share their own experiences. And I said there's going to be a little bonus. I don't know what it's going to be. There's a bonus question at the end for anyone who can answer it, because I can't. So Mahjong began. There's all sorts of legends that it goes back to the time of Confucius, that this, that, and the other. But the general consensus is that Mahjong began sometime in China, probably in Shanghai, in the 1850s. And it was played by men, it was played by women, and it was played while sailing, which is important because it originally started as a card game. And Chinese Mahjong doesn't have, they don't have set hands, but they do lay out. I'm assuming some of you know something about modern Mahjong, where you set the tiles out in rows. If you're playing outdoors, if you're on a boat, cards do not necessarily stay put. And so it sort of transformed from a card game to people began making Mahjong tiles. And because the tiles would not blow away. And it was a really popular game all through China. It gained popularity, people played, lots of fun. Then in 1920, a man named John Babcock, who worked for Standard Oil, was in China and learned how to play and thought this was going to be a lot of fun. So he brought Mahjong back to the States, and Abercrombie and Fitch produced the first Mahjong set that one could get. And President Harding and his wife and many upper crust families just thought Mahjong was wonderful. And they all began to play. And it was very popular. It was very upper crust. People liked it. It began to seep down a little bit into the middle class. But there was a problem in that people began making a whole bunch of house rules about maybe you could only make certain hands, because it was originally sort of like Rummy Cube. Anyway, that you could only make certain hands, that everyone picked, there was one thing where everyone started with one tile, how you did the passing was very different. And as house rules became more and more complicated, people began to lose interest in it because you could only sort of play with whoever was playing by your rules. It was sort of a mess, and it began to lose in popularity. However, Jewish women were beginning to play it. Other people were beginning to play it, and people thought there's got to be a way to save this game. And I am going to hopefully going to share some content here. So in 1937, these 5 women got together and decided what was going to save Mahjong is if all the rules were the same. And these 5 women became the National Mahjong League. And there you have the beginning of the National Mahjong League, which now has over 350,000 members. I'm not sure if just buying the card makes you a member. I'm not sure how you become a member, but anyway, these 5 women began it. And what they did is they decided to put out a card every year that would solidify the rules, that would make it so that there was a standardization, and also to make it interesting, the rules, not the rules, but the card would sort of change every year. Now, a Chinese, and the other thing they did, traditionally Mahjong, it's a little bit like Hanukkah, spelling Mahjong with one G usually referred to the Asian game, they added a second G to Mahjong for the American game. And when they produced their first card, there were 6. So I'm sorry, I'm going to backtrack a minute. A Chinese Mahjong set has 144 tiles, which is 8 tiles less than the current American one. There were no jokers. When the American, the first 1937 card only used 6 flowers, and the flowers could be wild. So that was the beginning of the original Mahjong League. The other thing that's interesting about the National Mahjong League is I'm not sure which one of those women was an Unger, but it is privately owned by a family. One of the women trademarked it and set up the business. So the Unger family owns it. And the last woman was Ruth Unger, and she died in 2015. And her 2 sons, David and Larry Unger, now run the National Mahjong League, or they're the owners. I don't know how much I could not find how much day-to-day workings they have. And so it progressed. And then in 1938, when they came out with their second card, they decided to have 8 flowers, but the flowers were still wild. In 1944, when they produced the card, they based it on, there were 14 flowers, and they based it on the World War II ration card. So somehow there was some layout in the ration card that you could build hands on. The other thing that was sort of interesting is how it became popular, and the National Mahjong League, they originally had a competitor. And the competitor was the, I have to find their name. The competitor was the Wright-Patterson Mahjong card. And the Wright-Patterson Mahjong card was developed for Air Force bases, because families on the Air Force bases really got into Mahjong. And as they traveled the world, they needed some kind of standardized card. And so, there was a military version of Mahjong. My understanding is it's since died out, but it was the Air Force Base card. So in the meantime, the upper crust still, they weren't joining the Mahjong League. They were sort of dying out. But 2 things sort of thrust it back into popularity. One was a number of Jewish refugees who left Europe ended up going to Shanghai. I don't know if you know this, there was a huge Jews trying to flee Germany. Shanghai was one of the places they could get into with if you could get out of Germany, Shanghai was accepting everyone. And if you ever go to Shanghai, there's fabulous museums about the Shanghai Jewish community. As soon as World War II ended, or as soon as they could get out of Shanghai, needless to say, this German, Polish, Jewish community really did not want to stay in Shanghai past the war. And as soon as they could get out, they could. But they brought Mahjong with them. They'd all learned how to play Mahjong when they were in Shanghai. The other thing that happened is that post-World War II, it's the Beaver Cleaver, Ozzie and Harriet, women stopped working. People think this was the traditional role, but pre-World War II, you very seldom had mom, dad working, mom staying at home, raising kids. Most families, the women worked. They often worked in family businesses. They would, mom and pop stores. But a lot of women pre-World War II were working. After World War II, there suddenly became this thing, the man should be the breadwinner, women could stay home. And women found themselves at home with children. Not necessarily a lot of expendable money where they could go out a lot, but they and their friends were sort of sitting at home. And so in the morning, while watching the kids, in the evening, Mahjong was a cheap way to once a week get together with your friends. Someone would make the Jell-O salad, and you rotated providing dinners. and you would make, it would be your weekly outing. And so Mahjong became popular in apartment buildings as people moved into the suburbs. It became a way for young women to stay connected, to socialize. And as they got older, they just kept playing. The other thing that happened is because women were not expected to work, especially on the East Coast, you left town for the summer. You went to the Catskills, you went to the Florida communities. Women and the children were shipped off somewhere in the summer to get out of the heat. And so Mahjong became a really big sort of Catskill summer cottage game. And so Mahjong began to grow. People did not, began playing it again. Everyone had their little pushka. Everyone had their little purse where they kept their winnings. And it was very often, I remember my mother's pushka, and that was used for tzedakah. I mean, also Mahjong had but your pushka, at some point, you took your winnings from your pushka and put them in the tzedakah box, and it was a way of raising tzedakah. So it was also this way of staying in touch. And then, the rules kept changing. So in 1950, there were 24 flowers. In 1984,
You
so
should explain what a set consists
oh,
of.
right. So a Mahjong, I should ask, raise your hand or unmute yourself. Is there anyone who has no idea what Mahjong is about? I've sort of been assuming you've all at some point. Okay, Diane doesn't have. So a Mahjong set has actually, why don't you go get ours? Or I can explain. A Mahjong set has sort of 3 suits. There's a green suit called BAMs, and every Mahjong set looks a little bit different, but the numbers 1 through 9 appear in 3 sets, and there's 4 of each number anyway. And in the set, there's 4 of each color, and then one suit, here, let me just have one rack, that'll do it. So this is a BAM, and BAMs pretty universally look like bamboo. And so there's 4 1 BAMs, 4 2 BAMs, 4 3 BAMs, and that's one. These are cracks. Cracks, again, are pretty uniform. Set by set, they're always red and either a dark blue or black, and these are cracks. And then you have dots, which look like dots. And as I said, every set is slightly different. You then also have 4 dragons. The dragons, so this is a dragon, and you just learned this, it's on your card. This is a dragon that goes with the soaps, with the dots. Get white dragons. The cracks get a red dragon, and the BAMs get a green dragon, which is somewhere about right. Also, the odd thing about a BAM is the one BAM always looks like a bird, and it varies set by set. You also have flowers, and flowers. A tray, I'm sorry. And flowers just look like odd little drawings, and they differ from set to set. They all have numbers on them which don't mean anything, and these are just flowers. After a while, jokers began getting added into the set. A joker is anything from something that just says Joker to you can be very clever. So my jokers look like this. Karen Lindstone has a set where all of her jokers say Karen. They vary from set to set, and then there's also directions: north, south, east, and west. A Chinese mahjong set, an American mahjong set, all look the same, except there are no jokers in a Chinese mahjong set. And they have 8 flowers, which is where they get the 144. So along the route, the most flowers anyone ever played with, because those of us who've inherited our mother's sets all have gobs of flowers that we don't know what to do with other than keep in a bag. In 1950, there were 24 flowers used on the cards. They stopped doing that. In 1961, they decided flowers were no longer jokers, or no longer wild. And it wasn't, and this is very sad for those of you who know how to play the game. So this is the National Mahjong League. It may come out backwards for you. These are set hands, and you have to make these hands. Until 1984, jokers could be used for anything. So if you only needed 1 of something, you could use a joker. If you only needed 2 of something, you could use a joker. In modern mahjong, since 1961, if you need 2 of something or 1 of something, you may not use the joker. It makes the game far more challenging. And then, and I've lost the date, but at some point, they finally decided there are going to be 8 jokers in every deck, in every set, 8 flowers in every set, and that's it. I do not foresee that there's going to be any additions or subtractions in how the game is played. Now, I want to share one more picture with you because it was sort of fun. It's not, let's see if I can get it clearer. There you go. This was in 1976. Hasbro came out with Let's Play, and it was a card game. So it is mahjong. Hasbro had the rights. I have no idea how they got the rights. And it came out with a card game of mahjong. By the way, there's like, I didn't do it all. There's like 14 pages of instructions with this game. And I don't know if I can make it. And you can see the dragons, I mean, it wasn't in color, but the cracks and the bands look very hand-drawn. I'm assuming this is a flower. I'm assuming it's right, because you can't see me. I'm assuming it's a dragon, that very pretty thing is a flower. No idea what that is. And then there's some bams and cracks and dots. But they made this card game. And with playing cards, spelled with a K for reasons I have no idea. And it says the copyright is National Mahjong League, but it did come out via Hasbro. So that sort of happened. Then what happened sort of in the 80s is I don't know, many of you are my age. I'm in my early 70s. Growing up, we made lots of mahjong jokes. Mahjong was something our mothers played. We all remembered the tiles going clack, clack, clack. And it was not something we were going to play. When Phil and I lived in England, we played with our downstairs neighbor, because in England, it was a couples game. Our downstairs neighbor, we lived in this in this subdivided house. Our downstairs neighbor was a working couple from Leeds, right? A very working couple. He had gotten to be, it's hard to understand the English education system, but he was one of the working class who, through teacher recommendations and special test scores and whatever, was able to come to Oxford, which was very rare. But they were very working class. And I mean, it was the sort of thing that they did not understand in the winter, why we were not having suet pudding for tea, which was dinner, because that's how you stayed warm in these very cold apartments. But they played Mahjong as a couples game. And so Phil and I learned the game because we would go downstairs and play with them. And then we came back to the United States. And again, Mahjong was something my mother did. I didn't know anyone who played, poo. And then a group of us began having children. And we wanted something to do once a week to get us out of the house that was low cost. We would rotate houses. We did not do dinner because we did it theoretically after the kids were asleep. And for those of you who've been around for a long time, Sue Belkin and Janet Arfa and Ellie Gerst and I and Arlene Applebaum formed a Mahjong group. And we would go from house to house playing Mahjong, often with one kid who refused to go to sleep on our lap. And Jackie Sensor of blessed memory, who always took whoever kid was up and put them on her lap as we played Mahjong. And as very young women, we played Mahjong. And we knew other young women who were playing it, much to our amazement. And then for a number of us, our kids got older and we sort of stopped doing it. Getting out in the evenings was harder. Kids, it wasn't like you could put your kids to bed at 7. We just sort of stopped. And then a lot of people I knew began playing Mahjong again when their kids were leaving home, or, the kids could take care of themselves. And suddenly women were playing Mahjong again. I started again because Karen Lindstrom, who's on this call, her mother was coming out 6 months a year, and she needed a group to play with. And so a group of us got together and started playing so we could keep Karen's mother company. And then we continued playing. Lots of you, and I'm going to stop talking so you can share your own Mahjong stories, but friendships came. And a lot of us are teaching our children. When my boys were little, the 4 of us we would get Mahjong cards and the 4 of us would play Mahjong together, and it became a family game. Phil hated it because he wanted to be able to make any hand he could. He did not want to stick to think of Rummy Q. If those of you who don't play Mahjong but know Rummy Q, think of playing Rummy Q, but you can only make certain combinations, not any combination you want. That's sort of what Mahjong is, because and every year you get a new card that tells you all the hands you can make. And a whole new generation has started up. And just as a side note, my son was talking, they have a very good Chinese friend who has started taking up Mahjong again with her Chinese relatives and learning to play. And her trajectory has pretty much been the same as our trajectory was, in that they didn't play for a while because it was something their parents did, and now they're all playing again. The bonus question, by the way, also Chinese Mahjong, when Americans play, we very carefully rack the tiles so you can see the hand. Again, think sort of like Rummy Q. Chinese Mahjong doesn't bother to rack tiles. But Jewish Mahjong, if you have an older set, the newer sets don't necessarily have this. There are all these little red and black and blue. It has something to do with betting. And that, unfortunately, I did not learn from my mother. I know they used to use it. So the bonus question is, if any of you understood how people used to bet, that would be great. Anyway, I am unmuting people because there aren't that many of us. And I'm going to ask you to share, how did your groups get together? I'm going to ask Christy. So Christy came, wait, why am I asking else when me? Just the mute. Okay, there you go. Christy, I don't know if you're really here, just.
No,
Christy,
I'm here.
Did you ever get a group together?
I did not. We couldn't find
Christy
anybody that
came and
had
learned with
a,
us.
yeah, I couldn't find anybody that, I don't know, we didn't have, the timing was wrong.
Got it.
Plus I like playing with y'all better, so I'll just keep popping in.
And anytime you're ready, anytime you want to play, just let us know.
Well, I
Awesome.
would think the fun thing right now that Judy might not have mentioned is that
Right.
we actually play online. And we have been throughout the pandemic. And where we used to only play, well, it's Karen Lindstone and Judy and Betty Cratchman and I, we used to only play once a week. We now play Monday through Friday. We play every day.
Oh.
And during the pandemic, it was an absolute lifesaver. We play online, and if you're trying to get a group together, that might be a good way to try and do it right now, because nobody has to go anywhere. They can do it online. It's called
So-
Real Mahjong.
We use the app called Real Mahjong. And then what we also do, because we like chit chatting, is we play the game online, and then on another device, we all Zoom together. And so we can see each other and talk to each other while we're playing.
Yes, we Zoom together.
Well,
also,
our group-
The computer will play some number of, if there are only 3 of you, the computer will play one of the hands, right?
Mhm,
Yes.
right.
Yes.
Any thought of putting a group together after, when we play in person, or we can play in person after the pandemic, God willing?
So Sisterhood, about 2 years ago, tried to get some groups together. I think there are groups looking for people. Yes, so I think after.
It's
the
more
pan-
than 2 years ago.
Yeah, so I think after the pandemic, definitely, we can help new groups get started. Also, Kadima, so I've been asked on Sunday, the 20th,
Mhm.
Kadima is learning how to play Mahjong. I have no idea why Kadima thought this would be a good idea. And actually, I haven't asked if all of the kids are gonna have cards. I mean, I'm not sure how they're teaching them, but I know they asked if I would come over. It's all gonna be outside.
Yeah,
So
they
if
said to
any of
bring
you-
cards.
Oh, they said to bring cards?
Mhm. There was an email
Oh.
today or
Oh,
something.
I missed that. So are they going to Xerox?
Oh, I got
it
an
for
email
kids?
today. Sorry, Judy. I got an
Oh,
email because
yeah.
my kids are in Kadima and it just said come.
No, maybe the teachers are being told to bring. Anyway, we will show up, but also I would bet if an adult or two showed up to also learn, they would not be turned away. So this is on the 20th at 2:00 outside.
It takes more than one day to learn.
Yes.
I
know
only
someone
got one
that's-
day. I was only given one day because Ellie was moving out of state. And she
That's
did the
true.
4th, and I got one day of a lesson, and then I started playing. So you can in one day, because you have the card, and the
I
card
know.
tells you what you can do. And when you make a
I have my
mistake,
card.
your dear friends slap you on the hand and say you can't do that.
Mhm.
It was fine,
And
and I did learn in one day.
there are books you can read too.
Yeah.
Stuff.
Yeah.
So I
So
know-
my group started in 1994.
Wait,
Sue Lauren's mom, Carol Rosenthal's mom. It was Bonnie, Sue's aunt. They taught us all how to, because they were all playing together at the time. And they taught us how to play. And that's how our group came to be. So we have Sue Lauren and Barbara David, Laura Van Dellen, Sandy Hartford, me, Nancy Copeland, and Carol Rosenthal. And Sandy Whitman used to play, but she hasn't played for a while.
oh, so you guys have more than one game going. You must have 2 games.
Well, right now we usually just have one game going. There were times we would have 2 games, 2 tables,
We
but
did.
not everybody
It's been
plays.
a long time since then.
Yeah, right, Laura.
We had 2 tables.
Yeah, like yesterday we had 5 here at my house, you know. And
How
so,
often do you play?
well, we were playing every Wednesday regularly, you know.
Do
till
you
the-
have to have 4 people? I mean,
Yes, you have to have,
that's a
you
dumb
should have
question,
4.
You-
but yeah.
You can play with
Play.
3,
Right.
but
mhm.
it is set, so it's easier than bridge. I mean, you can play with 3, it changes the strategy of the game.
Right. So we've been playing, you know, for 28 years, and during the pandemic, we kind of stopped. When things got better, we started getting back together. We stopped in January and we played again yesterday, and hopefully we'll keep going every week again. We rotate houses. We just do little snacks. People hardly eat anything. And I also play online like Kathy and you guys, because Narit Burrow used to live here, but she's in Phoenix now. So she plays online with us once a week. And I have another friend in San Diego who plays online with us once a week. And then there's me and another friend here in Glendora. And it's fun. We were using a device to see each other, but now we just use the microphone that's on there and we just talk to each other because the phone, the battery was going down too fast, you know, when we were trying to look at each other. So we just use the mic and we talk. And it's fun. Been
Are you
doing it
using the
forever.
same program, the real Mahjong program?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Judy, you can also play, I taught you to play with two people.
Really?
Yes, there
yeah,
is a
it's a
two-people
great- it's-
version where
it's-
each of you plays two. It's a whole other, but it's
It's
more,
hard.
it's different. Is it your group? I think there used to be a group that played, so you can bet on the hands. There is money that passes back and forth
Yes,
when you play
yes.
in person. We have
Mhm.
not been keeping track online.
Mhm.
There was one group that used to play, many of us played for quarters.
Right.
There was one group that used to play for higher stakes.
Ooh.
And once a year, they went to Palm Springs. They pooled all their
Wow.
money and went away for the
Wow.
I don't
weekend.
know who that is.
None of you were in that group. I
No.
can't
Mm-mm.
remember who it was,
No.
but there was a group who used to pool all their winnings and go away. And you can do cruises.
I was just gonna say, if you go on a cruise, there's always people there who will play Mahjong. Right,
Mhm.
Kathy?
Absolutely.
And there's all these tournaments too. They have Mahjong.
Oh, yeah, there are
cruise
tournaments.
And there's
In
tons of
fact,
tournaments.
there's one in a couple of weeks, I think in Ontario. I have the flyer
Yeah.
somewhere.
But let me tell you, they make you play really fast if you go to a tournament. Because
Really?
it's
Yeah.
like you gotta pick and throw. You get so nervous, you don't even know what you're doing. You just pick, throw, because they make it really, really stressful of that tournaments. You gotta be really knowing what you're doing.
I think I might have 3 people who could play. One's a real expert. And so if somebody's a real beginner like I am, I have a person that might be willing to teach us with myself and maybe Tova. You guys know Tova. Maybe I can talk her into it.
And there's enough. I mean, one of the nice things about Mahjong is as you get better, you can see different hands. You
Yeah.
do become better at it, but there's just enough luck involved that even as a beginner,
Yeah.
you can, and the group's willing to play a little bit slower.
The setup was the one lesson I had, the setup was so elaborate. Move everything this way, then move it
Yes.
that way.
Right,
That was really a
Charleston.
orchestration. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
It is,
Do you
but
do
you know
that?
what? Once you
You catch
figure it
it on
out,
pretty-
it's really easy.
Yeah, go this way, go that way. It's
Right,
like
yeah.
a
Mhm.
cheerleader thing.
That also changed.
That's right.
I didn't quite understand it, but the passing changed a bit over the years until I forget when that became standardized. And especially when there were 24 flowers, everyone got to start with some flowers that they were somehow not part of the passing. You just sort of got some random flowers. My understanding is in the Chinese one, they also do the passing and it's very similar.
But they don't use the cards, right? The
Right.
No,
Chinese.
they
No
don't
cards.
use the card,
They
but
don't use the card.
there is some kind of set hands. There are some kind of rules about the hands, but they're standardized and they don't change.
Okay.
And
Probably
they
like
tend
Rummy.
to have huge mahjong parlors. If any of you saw Crazy Rich Asians,
Oh, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
men and women play, and they
Right.
often play in groups. It's an afternoon thing.
If anybody's interested in a tournament, there's a Mahjong tournament on Sunday, March 20th at Temple Shalom in Ontario. It goes from 8:30 in the morning until 4:15.
Wow.
And there's 12:30 to 1, there's lunch. And it's $40. I have the flyer. If anybody's interested, let me know.
Oh,
I'm not going, they play too fast.
yeah.
Well, didn't
Hey.
know had become so popular again. That's not, my mother
Yeah.
would be happy. Yeah, my mother would be happy.
Do men,
Wednesday night, sees candy. Yeah, that's all I remember. Click, 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 clack, sees candy,
Yeah.
ladies talking. Yeah.
Now, my
My
mother didn't
grandmother
play
would be-
mahjong. My mother played pan
Oh.
and I guess gin rummy or something they played.
Ah.
okay, I have a
They
question.
Linda,
played
yes,
cards.
Linda,
Okay.
Linda.
Yeah, okay, so are men playing mahjong these days? Or is
Not
it a-
really.
is it a women's
I
game?
know couples who will play. I don't, so Asian men, yes. You'll often see, sort of like you see people in the park, you will sometimes see men playing mahjong in the park. Like you see people playing chess in the park, you will sometimes see 4 Asian men playing. I do not know of any men's groups. As I said, in England, it was a couples game. And we have occasionally browbeaten Phil or a man who knows the game to join in, but it really seems to have become a woman's thing. And I think it was the woman's night out. I remember when, it was hosted at my mother's house. They didn't do, at our house, we didn't do dinner. But I remember, again, there were snacks and she would bake and it was the 4 women, or 5 women, and they would stay up late and they would joke, and it
Yeah.
really was a weekly.
I remember the men would play pinochle and cards.
And
Mhm.
man, yeah.
I played and smoke cigars. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I have this vague memory that on the nights that we had mahjong at our house, my father left. So I think the men were getting together somewhere
Uh-oh.
to like play poker, or like the husbands were somewhere.
Yeah, I remember it as something that my mom did in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And she had to kind of be done in order to cook dinner for when my dad came home.
Oops.
Well, we did it
Well-
in the evening because everybody at the time was working, you
Right.
know, but
Right.
now most of us are not working.
We used to go to the Catskills, Judy, so I could relate to your story, because I grew up in New York, and that's what we do in the summer. We go up to the Catskills, Royal Colony. My mom would sit every single day, all day, and play mahjong. And my sister and I'd be in day camp, because they would have these day camp. And that's what you just did in the summer when you, went to the camp.
Mm.
And then at the hotels too. So sometimes we'd go, when I got a little older, we'd go to the hotels, and my mom still would sit all day long and play mahjong.
I think, I mean, it's interesting because I think it really became a social outlet. And so it kept women sane. I can understand how, like, if you were an Air Force spouse and schlepping from base to base, that having the standardized, I mean, I found that fascinating that the Air Force put out a card. So it kept women together. It kept people being able to socialize, use your brain, because you do have to think. And I found the history sort of fascinating. I love the fact that someone actually owns the National Mahjong League. But it is sort of interesting of the place it played in society. Did anyone get to go to the exhibit when it was here? I think it was at the
Yes.
Stir Ball.
Yes, very interesting. Yes.
Mhm.
My mother loved it.
Mhm.
Yes, yes.
And the sets are fabulous. If you can look up the supply chain. So I threw it out. One of the things, if you buy the official card, which theoretically you need to do because it says in 12 places you may not copy this, you must have the official card. They also sell stuff. They sell mahjong t-shirts, and they sell mahjong sets, and they sell racks that you can, make it easier to pass tiles and stuff. And I thought it was fascinating that when you got the mahjong card, so you have it, that when you got, if you look up at Kathy, if you go into gallery mode, Kathy's showing it, once a year you get the stuff with all the tchotchkes
Get
you
this
can buy.
goodie, yes.
When you actually go there, everything is out of stock because of the supply chain.
Mm.
So my guess is a lot of the stuff is still made in Asia because they actually can't get a hold of it now. And sets are beautiful. If you ever go, I think it's called the game store. If you go into game stores and look at mahjong sets, they can, because everyone is different and they are just, some of them are just beautiful. The original ones were ivory.
Ivory.
The ones that the
Mhm.
Hardings, President and Mrs. Harding played on ivory sets. I know one or two people who, inherited ivory
Yeah.
sets. They are not made of ivory anymore.
Yeah.
But you can get some, if you go online and just look at mahjong sets, it's fascinating to see the differences and how they lay out and how it works.
I went to visit the Mahjong League when I was in New York a number of years ago,
Ah,
just because I wanted to meet Ruth. We always get from Ruth. I don't know if she's still alive or not. I don't know. Does anybody know?
Ruth Unger, no, she died in 2015.
Oh, she
That's
died.
why that's why her sons now own it.
Oh, okay.
The brochure that you get with your card, the annual brochure, is sincerely Lawrence Unger, President.
Okay. She
Yeah,
was,
sure, yeah. I just got
was
this
there
today
when
in the mail.
and I
Yeah.
guess it was before 2015, and I got to meet her. And but I was expecting it to look differently than it was. It wasn't very impressive. It was just like a small little room, and people were in the back, like,
Oh,
filling the envelopes with the cards, and it didn't look like what I had expected it to look like.
Well, I don't think it's progressed much since the 5 women who started it, except that they now test the cards. Adi, what were you going to show people?
Oh, I have a mahjong mezuzah.
oh my goodness. Oh, that's amazing.
How cute.
And I have
Right,
mahjong
that's so cool.
jewelry, but I can't find it.
Right,
Earrings and a
there's
bracelet, and I
mahjong
don't know where
earrings.
they are.
And
We have a
I have a
mahjong dreidel.
mahjong dreidel.
Oh my
Oh,
goodness.
I think I have a mahjong dreidel too.
Yeah.
I have Mahjong hot mitts. You gotta have
I mean, It's
everything.
become a cottage industry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was talking to a
Face mask.
I was talking to a friend of mine who belongs to Oakmont Country Club, and she said they're starting to learn there, and that so many of the country clubs are starting mahjong, which is
Huh.
typically, like she said, she happens to be Jewish, but she said at Oakmont, most of the people are not, but they're all into learning mahjong. So it's kind of spread from, originally Jewish people to now everybody.
Well, it originally it was, President Harding and very upper east side, west side, upper New York. I don't know New York, but the upper class of New York are the ones who really started it. I mean, the fact, I would love to see what the original Abercrombie and Fitch set looked like. But it was just so striking to me that they're the ones who made the first mahjong sets in the United States.
It probably
And-
exists, but it's probably really expensive.
Yes, yes.
Well, that's, you
I have a
can't,
small set,
buy
a
it
travel
now.
set.
Now they make clothes. That's interesting.
I'm sorry, what?
What-
No, I said now they're a
you're not
clothing
allowed to
company.
buy and sell ivory objects, right?
No, you may own ivory, but right, you can't
Yeah.
sell them.
I think I have some left of ivory one my mother had. A lot are missing. Yeah.
Mhm.
My sister
my
got my
dreidel.
grandmother's.
Oh
ivory
my
set.
goodness. Oh.
Oh.
Mm.
I have jewelry, but I don't know where it is.
Right, at one time, I think I had earrings or someone
Mhm.
gave you, but it did turn into sort of a whole cottage industry, but it's
Right.
sort of interesting how it's gone from sort of being a joke. I mean, how it went to becoming a Jewish, how it started Chinese, then very waspy, and then sort of trickled down to the tenements and the Catskills and what the history books, what I was reading about mahjong called the cottage homes that people were sent to in the summer, where, if they were in Florida or at the Jersey Shore. And then how it resurrected and has become a thing again. And someone was telling me that it's played on college campuses.
Hmm.
I wouldn't be surprised if there's men who are playing it somewhere. But I know when we saw people playing it in China, it was interesting. We never saw men and women playing together.
And they don't walk together either, so.
Well, that could, yes, but
That's a
We- we
cultural thing.
yeah, we never saw people playing it together. So any other shared memories of Mahjong or?
I just learned like 2 months ago, and we're
Ah,
kind of, my group is through PALAC, the Pasadena Area Liberal Arts Center. So we're just kind of learning or practicing and learning the card and learning how to, we played like one game so far. Mostly it's just picking and trying to make a line on the card. But we're enjoying it, and we'll start playing more now.
and I do have to give credit to the National Mahjong League. I mean, I mentioned the little pushkas and Sadaka. If you buy your cards, if you are a charitable organization and buy a minimum of 35 cards, they make a donation. So Sisterhood last year, I think ordered 30 some cards, and it's not a lot, but we got $190. And this year we ordered 55. If you ordered through Sisterhood, there were 55 cards. And if you look on that leather, if you get the national leather on the back, it explains all the people and the organizations that receive money. So you have to look up Adina Gordon, because they
Yes,
listed by the
I was-
person who sent
Yes.
in the
Oh,
order.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. Just looking it up now.
Mhm,
And there's like 2 pages
mhm.
of
Yeah.
organizations
Yeah,
they
yeah.
give money back to.
It's really very small print, and it's more than 2 pages.
Yes, so if you are new to playing Mahjong and you're going to order your card for the first time through the National Mahjong League, there is a $9 card and a $10 card. I strongly recommend the $10 card, bigger.
Right.
Adina Gordon, Pasadena Jewish Temple. I found
Yeah,
it.
Yeah,
me
it's
too. I
there,
just
it's
saw
there.
it. Pasadena Jewish Temple, that's it.
It's the original cards are smaller. And as many of us have aged, we have found it much easier to use the larger card.
Oh, interesting.
It's
But
worth the
don't they
dollar.
get in the way, Judy? Isn't that larger
No.
card get in the way?
No,
No,
we manage.
your arms aren't that short.
Pardon, I didn't
Your
hear.
arms aren't that short.
Well, I just,
It does not get in the,
You
it gets
know.
in the way far less than constantly picking up the card and going, what's?
oh,
I have kept all the cards from my mom. She kept all her cards every year.
Ah,
So I have all the cards, and I've kept all our cards too from when I started playing. And it's kind of fun to look back at the old cards. They've just recycled the same kind of hands over the
boy,
years.
how many different ones could there be?
Right. So they just keep, you see a lot of the same hands
Hands, yeah.
every couple of years come back.
Well, and then if you play with someone who's played a lot, like Judy and Karen, you have them go, oh, this used to be a hand.
Right.
That's right.
Mhm,
as
we
we're
do
sitting
that
there
too.
playing and realizing we're playing a hand that doesn't exist anymore.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So, a number of us are willing to teach people. Christine, anytime you have a free, right now we're playing in the afternoon, but who knows, we may go back. Hopefully we're gonna go back to in person once a week soon. We still may play during the week, but we did go back briefly. And it was nice playing in person.
Yeah.
We
So
have
for
a whole
those
new
of you-
backyard. You can come play in our
Oh, that's
patio.
right. And I must admit, we've discovered the one thing playing on the computer, I mean, now that you may find this, the computer sort of sorts things and reminds you when you can call
Mhm.
something and when you can't. And so
Right.
playing without the computer, actually you have to pay far more attention.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
The computer sort of makes it easier, but the computer also then doesn't let you cheat. No offense.
No,
Not
they
that
don't.
any of us would
Cheat? How can you
but-
cheat?
But someone has been known to pick up a towel and the next last person says, oh, wait, I wanted to call. Yeah. And unless you have someone's mother who's very good at mahjong yelling at you every time you do that, Karen.
Well, that's what the tournaments are like. They really stick to the rules.
Yeah.
That's why it's too hard.
Karen Lindsten's mother, Ruth, is a stickler for the rules. And even though she can't play anymore, if she's hearing us play or something, will yell at us if things go wrong.
I used to get lectured in the car if I went, it's okay, it's okay, pick it up anyway. I'd get in the car and get yelled at. Like, how could you get away with that?
And I guess it wasn't, I think it's Kathy. Did you play with Ruth that used to yell, or Betty, when she first learned? Ruth would yell at us about, she's played for a few weeks now, it's okay, she can't get away with it. Just let her learn.
Yeah.
And I do have to say, Karen's mother at 95 was beating all of us.
Oh, wow. Bless your heart.
And she played hands that you wouldn't even attempt.
Mhm.
She always played the ones that were closed or,
Yeah,
yeah.
she played that thing, I never looked down there.
Wait, what's closed versus open?
Did
You
you
can't pick
mention,
up tiles.
did you mention Adina Gordon? She sings in the Koha Emek choir with me.
Right.
Is she,
Yes.
Yeah.
is she into mahjong?
Yes, so
Yeah.
she is still a member of Sisterhood, and she's the one who buys the cards for Sisterhood.
Yeah, she
So
orders them
their-
for us.
Their order has gone in, so you
Right.
can now order them directly from the Mahjong League. That's how
Mm-hmm.
you get Mahjong cards. I don't know if you can buy them in game stores or not.
No.
But you order them from the National Mahjong
What's-
League, and
What stores?
Yeah,
There's-
I'm
there's
just here
certain
because
games-
I have,
game stores that,
I'm just here because I have memories of my mom when I hear the word mahjong. But I never learned how to play and I'm not really interested at this point, but it's kind of fun to kind of hear the clacking of the tiles and remember her wonderful friends and her friendships that she had.
I keep trying to envision it as a card game with the cards all over the place. I mean, I can see why they switched it to tiles.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Anyway, thank you for coming in tonight.
Thank you. This was
Um,
fun.
Again, for those
Thank
of you who
you.
came in a little late,
Thank you.
we are taking next week off. But if you're not watching Olympic figure skating, you can go on the YouTube station. PJTC has a YouTube station, and all of the social halls are taped, and you can find past social halls on YouTube. And they're really interesting to watch and to see the array we've had. But coming back on February 24th, we are going to have, Diane Burr is here. We are going to have a fascinating one on, and serious one on mental health with Karen and Danny Levin and Julia Greenblatt as our panelist, and someone I don't remember offhand is a moderator. Diane, who's the moderator?
Monica Levin,
Monica Levin.
Levine, she's Levine. I
Right.
think.
Yes, but is she related? She's not related
No,
to Danny.
Not
Yeah,
related to
she's not
Danny.
related to Danny and Karen.
Oh.
And it's going to be on mental health, which at this time is a really important social hall, and it is Jewish Mental Health Month. On March 3rd, you can get an update on the strategic plan. On the 10th, Lori Scope is going to be telling us how all the tempo publicity and emails and stuff are put together. And depending on what you're interested in, what you should be paying special attention to. On March 17th, the Cantor is going to be sharing with us all the wonderful ideas and experiences she has brought back from Israel. The 24th is still open, but on March 31st, the Men's Club with Sisterhood is doing a social hall, and they are also going to be looking at the aspects of mental health for children and building on what the mental health, what we're doing this month. They're going to build on that, but I believe their focus is specifically going to be young children. So there are some wonderful social halls in the works. If you have an idea for a social hall, please let me know. If there's a congregant you want to know more about. Again, Kadima, and I'm doing this without them knowing, but they are going to be learning Mahjong on Sunday from 12 to 4, Sunday the 20th, from 12 to 4 of this month, on Cat's Terrace. I'm sure if you meander by, they will let you learn along with everyone else. You must to be on the temple grounds, you must be vaccinated. And on the last but not least, on June 27th, please, please, please turn into the non-bagel breakfast at 10, because we're not feeding you, at 10:30 with Ron Wolfson talking about building good tents and shaping relational synagogues, what synagogues will look like after the pandemic. It is our finally centennial kickoff. And Ron is absolutely fabulous. Some of you have heard him speak before, so I highly suggest you come and listen to that.
Mhm.
Yes, Diane.
Thank you, Judy. I wanted to mention also that on March 27th, what
Yes.
was going to be a social hall is going to be, I guess, a non-bagel breakfast. I don't think we're having bagels, right? But it's on a Sunday at